it's okay to say, I'm excited for the weekend. There is nothing wrong with that. Are you excited because you're just going to squander your time and do aimless types of things? Or are you excited because you have some good intentional things that you're going to spend your time on?
Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you'll learn tips and strategies that will empower you to home educate your children. I'm Leigh Nguyen, a homeschool mom of over 12 years, which includes 2 graduates. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty much on my own and was desperate for encouragement and help. My mission is to be a source of encouragement and help to you. Whether you are just beginning your homeschool journey or you're deep into the homeschool lifestyle, Little by Little Homeschool wants to help you stay the course, because all the time you are investing into your children is completely worth it. If you're ready to take your homeschool to new levels, keep listening.
Weekends. They consume 2 days out of the 7 days in a week. And I did the math here. It's actually, those 2 days is 28.57% of the week. So we'll say if you're going to round up, which they say in math you should round up. So we're going to round up to 29% of your week is spent on a weekend. Now that's not a small amount, right? That's getting close to a third of the week. And so we should really be intentional about those 2 days. Way too often, people surrender their weekends. And I remember just being shocked years ago to find out how people wasted their weekends. Now, maybe my family and myself, maybe we're just a little bit too uptight and we're too determined and too focused and too much like headed on a path. You see me just like walking, and we're like just too driven. So I don't know. But I have seen firsthand that some people spend their weekend maybe just on technology, whether it is just scrolling on their phones or watching shows or going to the movies and shopping, going out to eat, and just an aimless type of living. Now, am I saying any of those things are wrong? Am I saying that it's wrong to catch up on with some friends on Facebook, or to go out to eat, or to do some shopping, or to go to the movies, or to watch your favorite show? No, I'm not saying that, but I am saying that if that is your weekend, weekend after weekend after weekend after weekend, then you're wasting your weekend. You're wasting that 28.57% of your week on just living aimlessly. And it saddens me when I see people, and I have been out and about when I've been forced to not be able to get things done during the week, and especially on the holidays when people are out, and I have not trying to overhear their conversations, but I have, and I'm like putting the pieces together of their day, and I'm like, okay, the kids are like worn out, and these are families that are out and about doing this stuff, and I feel like when I go out, I'm on a mission. I have a list. If I'm going grocery shopping, I have a list. If I have to go to the craft store or I want to go to Home Goods. Now, sometimes there's times I'm kind of just looking aimlessly a little bit, but I'm not going to spend the bulk of the day. I'm going to Target or Walmart or wherever it is. I've got a list, I've got a mission, and I'm looking to accomplish that. I might get distracted a little bit, and just like you might get distracted by some cute things or whatever, especially at Home Goods or something, or a cute shirt at Old Navy or wherever you shop. But some people spend every single weekend. Go out to breakfast, shop around, do this and do that, go out to lunch, maybe go to a movie, do some more shopping, just kind of wandering aimlessly, go out to dinner and go home and watch some movies and watch some TV and scroll on their phone. And I'm like, what in the world? You have wasted this time. And as a homeschooler, I really hope that you are intentional. And so this episode today is not meant to be judgmental at all. I just want to give you some direction if you're feeling lost on how you should spend your weekends. Now, many of the weekends when James and I were first married and our kids were young, our weekends looked a little bit different. Our weekends didn't start until Saturday, maybe mid-afternoon, later in the afternoon, and then they went to like Monday, midday. He worked a third shift or just some odd hours, and really, I would say our weekends were mostly just Sunday. Because when you work a third shift or you start work at 3 or 4 in the morning and you get home in the afternoon after a full week, he was tired. And so he wasn't really much use. He would be kind of falling asleep on Saturday. And so Sunday, he would be rested from a good night of sleep all Saturday night. And so it was really just on Sunday we would have. No, he would get a good rest on Sunday night going into Monday. And then he was like, I have to go back to sleep here in the afternoon so that I can prepare for working overnight. So it wasn't easy. When we survived, we did it. But now we get to have just normal Saturday, Sunday weekends that most people have. But people live for the weekends oftentimes, and guess what? They end up squandering their time. It's okay to say, I'm excited for the weekend. There is nothing wrong with that. Are you excited because you're just going to squander your time and do aimless types of things? Or are you excited because you have some good intentional things that you're going to spend your time on? So how should you spend your weekends? I want you to ask yourself that question. How should I spend my weekends? How should my family spend our time on the weekends? Now, there's a follow-up question. You're not thinking, well, how should we? How do we decide? The best way to decide is to say, what is best for this season right now? Let's take that word season and say, how is it best for us to spend our time this season in life? And then you can add on, what is best for us in this season? When this episode comes out, it is the winter. So how is it best for us to spend our weekends in the winter? So look in the context of your season in life, as well as the actual literal season that you're in right now. Because how you spend that time is going to look different in the different seasons of life. So let's talk about that. You might have babies. You might say, you know what? Weekends are just really good for us to be home as much as possible, to just rest and relax and to work together on just moving our family along. We got a bunch of little kids, or we have babies. We got kids that are taking naps. Maybe your kids are a little bit older, and you might say, you know what, it might still be good for us to be home, or maybe it's good for us to get out some. And then also looking at just seasons in life. What you do now on the weekends in the winter will probably look different than what you're going to do in a few months in the spring, and then the summer, and then the fall, and then we'll get into the holiday season and the winter again. And so it's going to look different. Every literal season of like the weather type of season is going to look different from that same season a year prior, because your kids are older. You're in a different season of life with your children. So is it better to spend your time on maybe sports and activities, or is it better to spend your time quiet at home, somewhere in between, visiting family? Only you can answer that. So I'm going to give you an example of some different seasons in life for my family. I'm not going to break it down into all 4 seasons for every single year and then every season in life, because we'd be here for way too long, and I probably don't remember all of those details. So I'm going to give you just a big picture. First, when we had just little ones and babies and toddlers and preschoolers, the weekend, even though our weekends looked weird, they didn't start until later on Saturday, and the weekend was a lot of just Sunday. It was a break for me with James at home. It was like divide and conquer. The two of us could get all of the things done that I would have to do during the week as well. Every single day, everybody needed diapers changed and meals made and put down for naps and, dealing with temper tantrums or crying and getting hurt and feelings hurt and all the things. And so it was a break for me that he would be home, and it wasn't just me that was going through all of that by myself. And so then they got to be a little bit older, and the weekends were a break for us from our daily routine during the week. Dad is home. Therefore, it was a little bit different, looked a little bit different. Dad was there to play with, and we could do fun things, and we get things done around the house. But it was just a bit of a break for everybody from what we were doing Monday through Friday. Then we moved. My kids are between the ages of 7 and 12. And we had a pretty significant move, moving to another state. And the house that we moved to, our kids never saw. Like, this was definitely a leap of faith. And our kids never saw this house until the day that we moved in. And I think back now, I'm like, wow. I mean, what were they going to do? Not come with us? But they were excited. And there's a whole testimony to that. But we, after a little while, realized we had purchased a big, old farmhouse. It was old and big, and it needed a lot of work. It was very livable, but aesthetically it needed a lot of work. And when you have an old house and then they put this on and that, there's, figuring out the electricity and, getting things rewired and plumbing and just all of those kinds of things. But then there just was a lot overall of just with the place. And so we instituted on Saturday was family work day. Now, James was at that point in a position, he was working Monday through Friday. So therefore he had off and he was well rested on a Saturday. And so, I mean, we all were, but that was different than from before when he was working different shifts. And we would do a family work day pretty much every Saturday. There were times where maybe there were some sports, but we really, during that season, took a step back. We had been so involved in so much where we were living prior and just decided to be really intentional and purposeful in downsizing and adding more of a bit of margin with other things and really just kind of focusing on our family during that time. So Saturday was family work day. We would have indoor projects, outdoor projects. And again, this would vary depending upon the season. We heated the house with a wood stove. And therefore, when it was time to start gathering the wood and splitting wood, that was something that we did. We had a pool at that place, and that would take some time. We had a lot of yard work and family work day. I tried to make it where we would do the regular stuff like the lawn mowing that would get done during the week, so that on the weekends we were doing projects, we were doing things, and it was all hands on deck. This is when our kids learned a lot about taking care of a house and all the things. Episode 323, I discussed work a little bit more. If you're kind of curious, you can go back and listen to 323. But we then would have a family work day, then followed by, because, we wanted to bond as a family. We bonded over the work, which was not always met with great enthusiasm by our children. They look back now and they say that was really formative, those couple of years where we did that. And then that evening on Saturday night, we would have a simple dinner. Everybody would get baths and showers and get our pajamas on, and we would either do a family movie night or we would do a family game night. Now, depending which one we would do would depend upon whether I could find a family-friendly movie, a movie that I thought was appropriate for us all to watch and to spend our time watching. And if I couldn't, then we would do a game night, but it also would depend upon what we did that day. Were we hauling brush into the woods all day long? Were we doing things that were like physically exhausting? And a movie would be a welcomed respite there. And that's what we would do. And so maybe it was a day where it wasn't a lot of super intense physical labor that we were doing that day, and everybody still was fresh in their mind, and we would do a family game night. Sunday then was church, and we would have free time individually, and we could play or rest, or sometimes we went on hikes. Again, we moved somewhere else. We would use that opportunity to maybe do some exploring of our new surroundings where we were living, some time to be outdoors. And it was just a good time. Like I mentioned, we have a pool. So Sundays, a lot of time the kids would play by the pool. I would read a book. So now, then we ended up moving, same state, just a half an hour away from there. And that's where we are right now. We've been here for 6 years. And our weeks right now, so at this point right now, I've got my 16-year-old that I'm homeschooling. I've got my 20-year-old who's running his own business, but he's living at home. And then my 22-year-old daughter is not currently living at home. So, and then my husband and I are here. And so at this point right now, our weeks are pretty set with the routine that we all have. And for me right now, my routine for the week is it's pretty set. And that's because I have some homeschool goals, I have personal goals, and I have some podcast goals. And so again, talking about time blocks, that was really important. If you go back and listen to a couple episodes ago, I talked about time blocks, and that's really important for me right now so that I can meet those goals that I really feel these different areas that God is asking me to be intentional about and stepping out and doing some things. So right now our weeks are pretty well established. So for me right now on Saturdays, I have to do the bulk of my chores. And if you're wondering, what are those chores? How do I know what to do on Saturday? That is all that I discuss in the Tidy Home. I actually use that process, that entire system that I create in the Tidy Home. That is what I do right now. That's how I know what I need to do on Saturday. Now, in the Tidy Home, I tell you that you don't have to do on Saturday. If you're like, I don't want to do any chores on Saturday, you don't have to. It's because I don't really have the time during the week to do it. And so in this season right now of life, again, where I'm evaluating, how should I spend my time on the weekends right now in this season of life? And right now, it's spending a bulk of my time on Saturdays, getting a lot of the chores and a lot of the cleaning done during that time. So The tidy home will guide you into setting what is best for you to do, what chores are best to do, what is the system and the routine that you're going to use, and what are some good times and days for you to do it. But that's what's good for me right now. My 16-year-old works on Saturdays. James has a hobby, and so he doesn't have any big projects to do right now. Like in the house, we're pretty well set. We've done a lot of what we would do in this house that we'll say we've done a lot that is within our budget. Of course, I have lots of other goals and ideas and stuff. So that's kind of how our Saturdays work. My 20-year-old, we don't really count him. He works. He works all the time. But Sundays then, I'm going to be completely honest with you, and I am not good at resting. There were some seasons that I was very good at saying, this is our Sabbath and this is how we're going to proceed with it. And it was very restful. And at this point, I don't feel so much like I have a little bit of margin. And I know that the Bible commands us to rest. So I do rest, but just kind of in a more active way, in a way that is enjoyable. And so we try now on Sundays. Well, obviously we go to church then in the morning. Well, maybe not obviously, but we go to church in the morning. And then we spend our time trying to do enjoyable things, not necessarily things that would be looked upon as work. I'll maybe try to catch up on a bunch of reading that I want to do. And we spend time together, or we follow our own hobbies. And I'm not good at taking a full day off. Like, unless I'm sick, you're not going to find me laying around. And to be honest, I've kind of got myself to the point where I'm used to expending a certain amount of energy every single day. And if I don't expend that energy during the day, I have a hard time sleeping at night. So a day of just kind of laying around and not doing really anything, which I don't know that it's necessarily you have to do that in order for it to be called a Sabbath rest. I don't know that I'd be able to sleep that night. And then Monday would start off really, really bad. So if you have any ideas on what I can do, please feel free to send me an email to give me some ideas. But I do try to just, use that day to do some things that are enjoyable to me and to bring us joy. So that's kind of just overall with my family, like, what are some things you want to do that'll bring you joy? And my 16-year-old really enjoys his videography, and so he'll take some time to edit some videos just, for fun, play his guitar. And over Christmas, did you know that some of this, like, they call it vintage? I'm like, really? It's not, I don't know that it's vintage, but record players and tape players are back in. So he enjoys now his record player and his tape player that cassette tape player that he got for Christmas. And the records that he got, I ended up going to the thrift store and they were like $1 because I was like, he can buy, if he wants to buy brand new records or like $25, you can buy it. That's fine. But for $10, I came home with 10 different records, and there's a polka one. There's a little bit of the soundtrack of Sound of Music. There's, I think, a waltz. There's classical music and all kinds of things. So it's kind of funny. He did listen through all of it, and he said he actually did enjoy it. So I don't know about the polka one. I think that one he's kind of like, I'm not quite sure. But overall, when you are asking yourself, how should I spend my weekends? Ask yourself further. The question is, what is best right now in this season of life? And then what is best right now just in this season of winter? And that can change in the spring. Come the spring, I enjoy spending more. I'll say, hey, let's go for a hike on Sunday, or let's go take lunch outside. Let's go do something that is outside that's really enjoyable. Or I enjoy planting my flower gardens at that time. And so really look at what is going on right now. And so right now it's the winter. And so a lot of the stuff that we maybe are enjoyable is a little more indoors. And we do spend time outside, but there's only so much we can do on a little bit of property. But I want for you to ask yourself, what is best right now? Friend, I thank you for listening to this episode. If you have not joined the Facebook group, we'd love to have you. We're missing you over there, and we want you to come on over. The link is in the show notes. It is a private group. It's open for anybody to join. You just need to go ahead and answer the couple questions so we know you're like a legit person. And we would love to have you over there, and you can ask questions, and you can ask the question. How do you all spend your weekends? And I would love for you all to hear that answer from you. So here it is. We are getting close to the weekend, right? It is actually Thursday that this episode is coming out. And so therefore we have 2 days to the weekend. So think about it. How are you going to spend your weekend?
Thank you for listening, friend. I'd love to connect with you more. You can find social media links in the show notes, and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost to her homeschool. See you back here real soon.